Welcome to today's episode. Our topic is a fascinating and quite controversial scenario. What if Dr. Benjamin Bol takes over the presidency of South Sudan this July? There's been a lot of speculation, especially after political analyst Bol Akum's recent remarks, warning that under Benjamin Bol, things will change dramatically. Political analyst Bol Akum argued that there will be no SPLM-IO, no SPLM-G10, no SPLM-IG, no 5 vice presidents, no over 900 army generals, no random militias, they will all be crash, no 2026 election, no more SPLM old guards elites, no 5 and 40 members of parliament. The government will be small. The current constitution will be dissolved. All these events are not coincidences. So, let's dive into what this could mean for South Sudan and her people. Absolutely, it's a scenario that's stirring up a lot of debate. Bol Akum's warning, "Be afraid of this boy," is a strong language. But let's start with the basics. If Benjamin Bol does become the caretaker president, the first thing people are saying is that all those SPLM factions, IO, G10, IG, name them, would be gone. No more fragmented political landscape. What do you think that would look like in practice? Well, if you take it at face value, it would mean a radical consolidation of power. The SPLM's different branches, which have been a major part of the country's political instability, would just poof disappear or be forcibly removed. In theory, that might sound like a path to stability, but in practice, dissolving all those groups could trigger resistance. It's like trying to untangle a knot by just cutting all the threads. Do you think that's even possible? That's a great metaphor. I think it would take extraordinary force and likely a lot of pushback. You've got years of grudges, rivalries, and, frankly, a power structure that's built on these factions. For Benjamin Bol to crash them, as Akum says, would probably mean a period of crackdowns, maybe even violence. But then there's the promise of a smaller, streamlined government. Fewer generals, no random militias, no 5 vice presidents. In theory, that could mean less corruption and faster decision-making. Could that be a silver lining? It could, but it depends on how it's done. If the approach is to simply remove people without a plan for inclusion or reconciliation, you might end up creating more enemies than allies. South Sudan's history is full of attempts to centralize power that backfired. Remember when the government tried to reduce the number of states a few years ago? It led to a lot of unrest, but I do see the appeal. A leaner government, fewer army generals, over 900 is just staggering. Maybe it's time for a reset. Over 900 generals, yes, it almost sounds like a football league rather than a military structure. But on a serious note, reducing that number would mean letting go of a lot of people who have their own networks and influence. What happens to them? Are they retired, integrated into civilian life? Or could they turn into the very militias Bol wants to eliminate? That's a real concern. If you don't manage the transition carefully, you risk creating a whole new set of problems. Some of those generals might not go quietly. And with no election in 2026, as Bol Akum predicts, people might feel even more disenfranchised. I mean, no elections, no parliament of 540 members, no SPLM old guard. It almost sounds like a revolution, not just a change of president. And not necessarily a peaceful revolution. Dissolving the current constitution would be a huge step. It's the backbone of the legal system, for better or worse. If you just scrap it, what's the plan for governance? Is there a transition charter? Or are we talking about a strong man rule where everything is decided from the top? That's the million-dollar question. If Bol comes in as a caretaker, the expectation would typically be that he manages a transition, not rewrites the entire political order. But from what's being suggested, it sounds more like a refounding of the state, kind of like what some countries did after independence, but at a time when people might not be ready for another upheaval. I'm reminded of other countries where leaders promised to clean house. Sometimes it worked. Often it led to new forms of authoritarianism. The promise of no more SPLM old guards elites could appeal to young people frustrated with the status quo, but it could also mean a loss of experience and institutional memory. Is there a risk that the baby gets thrown out with the bathwater? Absolutely. Institutional memory is crucial. If you remove everyone with experience, you might end up repeating old mistakes. Plus, the sudden shift could create a power vacuum. Who fills it? New technocrats? Military loyalists? Or does it open the door to foreign influence? That's another angle, with President Salva Kiir reportedly going for long-term medical treatment. And Bol stepping in, there's bound to be outside interest. Neighboring countries, international bodies, they'll all have their eyes on how this transition is handled. If it looks like a purge, aid and investment could dry up quickly. And South Sudan depends heavily on both. Let's not forget, stability is key for oil production, which is the backbone of the economy. Any turmoil could hurt not just the elite, but ordinary people too. I wonder if Bol, assuming he does take over, has a plan to reassure both citizens and international partners. That's the tricky part. The political analyst narrative of Bolacum so far is all about what will be removed. Factions, generals, parliament, 5 vice presidents, constitution. But what's going to be built in their place? How will inclusion, justice, and economic growth be guaranteed? It almost feels like we're being told what the country won't have, but not what it will. It's like listing everything you're going to throw out of your house, but not saying what you'll replace it with. Will there be a new constitution? Will there be a timeline for elections, even if not in 2026? Or is this a transition with no clear endpoint? And that uncertainty can be dangerous. People need hope and a sense of direction. If all they see is a shrinking government and the elimination of familiar structures, fear might set in. On the other hand, maybe Bol's supporters see this as a necessary tough love approach to finally break the cycle of elite power struggles. It's possible. Sometimes a clean slate is what people crave, especially when the current system feels stuck. But the process matters. If the change comes with dialogue, transparency, and some respect for diversity, it could work. If it's done with an iron fist, history suggests it won't end well. Right? And let's not underestimate the resilience of South Sudanese society. People have endured so much, and there's a deep yearning for peace and normalcy. Maybe this is a chance for a new generation of leaders to step up. Not just Bol, but others who can bridge the divides. That's an optimistic take. I hope, if this leadership change does happen, there will be a wide net cast for new voices, not just a concentration of power. Otherwise, we could see more of the same, just with different faces. So, to sum up, if Dr. Benjamin Bol takes over as predicted, South Sudan could see major political upheaval, the end of SPLM factions, fewer generals and politicians, maybe even a new constitution. But the risks are huge. Instability, pushback, loss of experience, and uncertainty about what comes next. Exactly. It's a moment filled with both hope and apprehension. Will it be a reset or a relapse? That's the question. And maybe for our listeners, the real issue to ponder is, can real change in South Sudan come from radical top-down measures, or does it need to be a gradual, inclusive process? That's a great question to leave our audience with. What do you think real reform looks like in South Sudan? Is it about sweeping away the old, or building on what's already there? As always, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time for more thought-provoking discussions. Take care, everyone. Follow Majok Wuchok and subscribe to Make Talks YouTube channel.